I am, but
Pivawuna.
I'm gonna say something wrong. So.
Niake. Janet. Stongo. Atiskaushkin yacha. Stongo. Don't be afraid to answer.
Stungonades. Tinda.
Hmm. Alito. Sio. Kunumante. Madawaka. Madawika. Ansti Hunterish. Gwenna. Good morning. Kikadoos. Kikadoos. Good morning. Good morning. Coming live from 1950 South Shepherd. Pretty exciting. Pretty exciting. Got Oshkin Yechan.
In the area for the talking circle this evening. So
Oh, really?
maybe.
Yeah, coming live from 1950 South Shepherd in El Reno. Everybody's doing the Monster Mash today out at Concho.
Oh yeah, today is Halloween. Huh?
Today is Halloween. Tried to get Zeke the Freak to come on in his Cookie Monster costume, but was fortunate enough to have Miss Christina Sharp join us for as our producer. So and she's still working. She's like still sitting there working.
Working while she's
She's nonstop, man. She's nonstop. Um. So yeah,
What are you dressing up as for Halloween?
this is it.
This
This is it.
it.
This is it.
Today is our peer recovery
I
support
wear a
special.
mask every day.
Listen, we were talking about masks the other day, and I was like, the last thing I need on Halloween is to wear another mask. I've been trying to pull those off for a while now in recovery, right? So, yeah, I have all kinds of masks that we can wear.
Oh yeah,
so it's a little scary.
yeah.
Almost.
It's
Overwhelming.
Halloween for me every day.
Mm,
But we're working through that. We're working through that.
my daughter, my granddaughter, my daughter actually got a costume for my granddaughter, and she's going to be the fattest pumpkin in Seminole County. She weighs like 13 pounds and she's like 7 weeks old. And I have a picture and it's just the funniest thing. But she brought her in the other morning, brought her in, and it was like 6:45 that morning. And she brought her in, and I could not quit laughing. Like we just started laughing the entire time because she just didn't know what the hell was going on. She just was looking at us like, couldn't figure out why, but we were laughing because all you could see was the fattest cheeks ever. Her eyes were all smushed and she just looked like the cutest little fat pumpkin ever. But we were trying to figure out what my daughter was going to be, and she was trying to get my son-in-law to be Linus, which my son-in-law is like 6'5".
Yeah.
And all we needed to do was get a receiving blanket that was going to be big enough for him to carry around and mess his hair up a little bit. But she was like, he won't be Linus. I was like, well, it doesn't make sense for her to be the great pumpkin if he's not Linus.
Yeah.
And maybe he can be Snoopy. Who knows? Anyway, but yeah.
As a kid, and I remember my family had this little little lamb costume. Whoever was the baby always had to wear that, and it was like made of wool, and it was hot. And I remember wearing it. I just remember crying and being miserable. But I also remember my little sister wearing it, my little brother wearing it. Like Drew was the last one I remember seeing in it. But I mean, every kid that I remember seeing in that costume just hated it.
We never got to have costumes. I mean, there was so many of us though. I was raised with my grandma and grandpa, and they were like we had one of those houses to where like there was a family living in every bedroom, and so it was wonderful. It was wonderful. And the standard now is white picket fence, and you have to have one family in the house. But anyway, we grew up, it was a common practice for natives to grow up that way. That being said, is there were so many of us, and my grandpa and grandma pretty much supported the dominant part of us, and so they would have to buy costumes but they would the brand new baby kids, like the younger kids, got the cool costumes. And by cool costumes, this is way back when they had the masks that were probably very toxic for you.
Yeah.
And it had that little bitty two little nose holes and the little bitty mouth. And like, I remember somebody was Lucy and somebody was, I don't know. Anyway, you had the weird masks, and but then you grew out of those and you just had to wear whatever. So you always had like a sheet person that was a ghost, and there was always some random nasty mask that was probably 10 years old that whoever else had slobbered in, and it was gross. But
Like
I got
spit.
to where, and I got to where I would, like, I dressed up a lot. So my grandma would have, she loved us wearing dresses and skirts and everything. And so I was a princess for several years. It's because I had a
Still are.
dress
Still are.
that I had a dress,
Yeah.
Seminole princess. Hey. But I would dress up, and I remember we didn't even have makeup or anything like the makeup that you buy at the store, but we had poster paints and tempera paints and stuff because of school. And I remember my aunt would help me, and she would paint my face, literally paint my face like I had makeup on. And I would go to school and do, and I just thought it was the coolest thing. But one year I dressed as Medusa and just had these weird snakes coming off the top of my head. But um, we had a little pond that was by my cousin's house, and we were country kids now. Remember this, but we actually would go get the little baby snakes and pinch the backs of their heads and put them on our ears like they were earrings, and they would bite our ears. It was the craziest thing. But I remember my aunt was like, "You should go get some snakes and hang." This is how, anyway. But I was like, "Yeah, that would be cool." So anyway, I did, and I got them, and I put like two little snakes in a little bag, and we were going because it was for the Halloween costume contest at school. And I went to a little bitty tiny school that had 52 kids from kindergarten to 8th grade, and so everybody got to dress up. It didn't matter how old you were. And I remember taking them and pinching them and putting them on my ears because it added to the costume, right? And but they were real snakes on my ears, and the teacher was like, "Are those real?" I was like, "Yeah, it's authentic, right?" This was a real costume. But I did not win. But
Oh, you still didn't win?
oh, I did get in trouble for bringing snakes to school, though. So anyway, just rugged native stuff that we didn't know anything about town. We didn't know anything about town teachings either. So, but anyway,
Well,
I could ramble on all day. And
would you like to ramble into your name and
Oh, yeah, I should
who
do
you
that.
are,
Should
where
I do
you're
my
from?
professional intro or
You do you.
man? Okay. Well, um,
Good morning, everybody.
good morning. Let's do a
Mr.
start.
Chad Riley.
Natalie Harjo, my name is Natalie Harjo. I am Seminole Creek. I am Seminole Nation of Oklahoma, not Seminole Tribe of Florida. We do not have all the money. I am a peer recovery support specialist for the state of Oklahoma. I also co-authored the Native American Peer Recovery Support Specialist training, that enhancement training for the Oklahoma Department of Mental Health, and I work as a public health specialist for Southern Plains Tribal Health Board in the Tribal Epidemiology Center. I am Raccoon Clan. I am a member of Seminole Nation of Oklahoma, and I am in recovery, and specifically am a big supporter of Wellbriety. And I am a trained facilitator for White Bison, for Many Broken Hearts, Warrior Down, and Medicine Wheel 12 Step. And I am a peer with lived experience and have been in recovery for mental illness and mental health for almost 33 years. And my alcohol sober date is February the 5th, 2022. So it'll be coming up soon. There was a lot. There's a lot behind that, but so many stories. But anyway, I am glad to be here. I'm really, really enjoying the talking circles that are in this community. I mean, your community. And I'm not just saying this because I like to fluff people up, but this has become the premier program in the state of Oklahoma that everybody wants to model because of the work that is being done by this tribal opioid response program. And I have a lot of friends. I used to sit on council for the Seminole Nation of Oklahoma, so I have a lot of friends that are big wigs. And I also used to work as a historic preservation officer for the Seminole Nation, and so a lot of regulations and federal guidelines. So I met a lot of federal people who now ask me, because I do what I do and the work that I do. They ask me, what is this? What is this grant? What does it entail? And they know that I work with opioid addiction and recovery. And I always go to this particular program, and I'll go, hey, you need to talk to Darian, or and we do have we work with the 39 tribes in Oklahoma. And I say 39 tribes, I know the books say 38, but we liked to, at one point we had a discussion with the Cheyenne and Arapaho, and they like to separate themselves.
we're two different tribes.
So right. And so in honor of that, we like to make sure that we have people be seen. So instead of the 38 tribes that are in the books, I always say the 39 tribes in the state of Oklahoma. There's 3 in Kansas, and then there's the 2 or the 1 mainly in Texas, which is the Kickapoos. But we work with a lot of tribal partners, and a lot of people are asking, hey, how do we get this started? Hey, what do we need to do first? Especially with the next round, or the next round of the grant that's coming up. And anyway, that being said, is Senator Pittman is one of our tribal members. And so she literally texts me and was like, hey, how do I get in touch with this being the model program? I want it's such a premier program. I would love to model our tribe, because she currently sits on our tribal council now, after this model, because it's been so successful. The branding is definitely seen, not even just here, but Montana, California, Saskatchewan, on the East Coast. I think that's the East Coast. Yeah, the East Coast. Anyway, so I that being stated, is I came to visit one of the talking circles one evening, because as a facilitator for White Bison, we brought in the training, trained a lot of the people that were here and in your local area. And standout performance has been definitely Mr. Dave Levi. Shout out to Dave Levi. You're doing amazing work in this community, and in the Oklahoma City community too. Oklahoma County is definitely benefiting from your work that you're doing. And it's just, this community has been so refreshing, because they're so, I don't want to say this and compare this, because this will always get misconstrued, because people like to jack with my words. But let me say this in the most professional way ever. Your community is so open to being accountable. And that's not something that I see in a lot of the other communities that I work in, because they're still in that I need to blame somebody else for this.
Denial.
Yeah, the whole denial portion of it. Destigmatization, and it's a really hard word to say, number one. But number 2 is, it's such a big man, it's a struggle. It's such a struggle, because even within our own, let me give you this as an example. And I feel like I can speak on behalf of the Seminole Nation, because I am Seminole, and they know better than to fight with me. But in our community, like, for example, when we did our talking circle, or when we did our Wellbriety training in our community, we weren't allowed to smudge inside the building, a building that we own, a building that the tribe owns. And I was like, I went straight to them, and I was like, who told us that we had to follow a standard set of rules, right? For, like, why are we still following a colonized mindset when we're trying to open these doors for our people? So even something that simple, that stigmatization is, oh, well, we don't know what's going on, or we're going to allow other people to do these bad things. Well, you're already condemning people and not even giving them the opportunity, right? So a big part of what I do when I go into the communities, I have a background in behavioral health, right? That's what my degree's in. So a lot of my psychological warfare is because I'm very political minded. I sat on council for 7 years. I also worked for my own people for 14 years, almost. No, like 12 years actually. And then 2 years of those were contracted. But anyway, and I work deep in my community, because I'm a language teacher. I'm a purveyor of culture, and all of the things, right? And so I was fighting for this understanding of the concept of destigmatization. And our own people are the worst people sometimes. Like, it is the hardest thing for you to work for your own people. It really is, because they're all like, for me, they're constantly asking, well, what are you getting out of this? They think that we're driving these big fancy cars, and and all of this pot of money that where I don't know where it's coming from, but how come? And I mean, God forbid I get a new pair of earrings, because then that probably meant I got a raise, or you see me at lunch, and God forbid I take the day off, and they're like, oh well, she's on company time eating lunch at Pizza Hut or whatever. But I know because it's a small town, it's a small community. um and my name was out there. And but you walk the walk and you talk the talk, which kind of segues into what we're going in here. um, you can't argue truth, and if all you do is preach truth and bring to them the your own accountability, then hopefully you can kind of bring people along with you on that road, on that journey. Because in my road to recovery, a lot of my anger issues and addictions and things like that stemmed from a lot of terrible, terrible things. And that's why I said one of the first things that I wanted to do was to come to the grief and trauma healing circle, which is the talking circle for Mending Broken Hearts, Mending Mondays. And it's just been amazing. Like, I want everybody to do that. I
Yeah.
want it to be ultimately the goal with Southern Place Tribal Health Board. Well, with me personally too, is I want to saturate the state of Oklahoma, the entire United States. We want to saturate every area with a talking circle, to where you can't go 10 minutes without running into a spot that has that grief and healing, and a safe place for that healing available for our people. So I'm telling you, I can talk all day. I'm more of a
Is that it?
podcast kind of
Is that it?
a live, hey, we have this many minutes. You're gonna have to limit me, because I can podcast all day, literally. So I am so sorry. Good morning, everyone. And I probably need to start reading these too.
Yeah, let's go ahead and jump off
Somka
into it.
sounds like a Creek name. Are you Creek? I want to be a peer recovery specialist. How do I start? Go to ODMH and
SAS.
look into ODMH SAS, and there is a link on there that will tell you how to become a peer recovery support specialist for the state of Oklahoma. Now, I know a lot of people don't
It's
like to
free.
do
It's
this, and it's
free for natives.
yeah. And I know a lot of people don't like to have all the paperwork and upload and everything, but it's absolutely worth it. And
Come through Tour. We'll get it to
oh
you
yeah,
for free.
just and reach out to someone. Somebody
Yeah,
will
reach out to
actually
Tour.
help you.
We will help you get that.
There it is.
Nyaka Earl.
Yes, I am Creek. Oh, Stonewall out it's God. It's just
Well,
okay. Here we go. Okay, let me get into this because I'll talk all day. I got to take my glasses off so I can see if that makes any sense. It makes sense to my grandpa. October 31st, fall meditation with Native American elders. One is not born a Tiwa, but rather one is made a Tiwa. Once made, one has to work hard continuously throughout one's life to remain a Tiwa. Alfonso Ortiz, San Juan Pueblo. I do understand that Tiwa would be like me saying Muskogee or Istijati, or you saying, one's not born a Cheyenne. So, whatever that. Being Indian is being spiritual. It is not the color of our skin. Being Indian is how we think. We need to learn our culture, our language, our dances, our traditions, and customs. It is one thing to know these things, but another to live them. We need to spend time with the elders and get their guidance. We need to go to the mountains, woods, and desert to pray. Being spiritual is the way for us to think right. Walking the red road and thinking right is the greatest gift we can give to our children. And the prayer today is, Grandfather, help me to walk the talk. What you think? Because I'll talk all day.
Well, thank you, Oshkin for reading that. What came to mind was, living in today's ideal of what it is, that colonized mindset that we're just from ever since I can remember. You know, I remember how, like, we would have to take, like, we would have Native American Week, and that was like the only time we really got to highlight who we were, what we were, and how some people didn't even know we even existed. They think we were still in history books. And it wasn't even like a real history of what really happened. But I think about my life. Born in Thomas, Oklahoma. Uh, Fortunate that I grew up, in the community that I did, because there was plenty of women and very few men. But I had some good uncles. My Uncle Charlie. My Uncle Duck, my Uncle Smoke. My Uncle Fred Whitetail. Everyone called him Pubba. My Uncle Sam. I mean, really good men. And I remember, going out to my Uncle Duck's and them sweating. I remember, going to the Sundance. My family wasn't really powwow people, but there were others in the community. I think about my brother Craig. I mean, he grew up at the drum, and I could see who my connections were to me being Cheyenne. I kind of, that's who I lean towards. That's who I wanted to talk to. That's who helped me decide, like, until I finally, like, until I realized, like I am very blessed to be Cheyenne. Very, very, very blessed that you know I c- I mean, and not to say anything bad against anybody else, but I can't imagine being anything else but Cheyenne. And then I moved to El Reno, and it was like a culture shock. I get over here, and, like, it was just sad that some people thought that being native meant that you fight for, or you get drunk for 3 days and then you end up fighting. To them, that's what native meant. And it was easy. It was easy to go along with that. It was way easier. To be. I also had family here. Who were ceremonial. My Uncle Frank was real strong in his traditional ways, and thank God he was, because I mean that, like, kept me in contact with our culture. You know, him making sure that he used to sweat all the time. So, like, he got me to help out. Whenever I was young, had me carrying rocks, getting water. Just whatever I could do. He always had me taking part somehow, some way. And of course, I get into my addiction and just really lost. Fortunately, though, whenever I was 15 years old in 1995, I got initiated into the Dog Soldiers. They came and got me, and I was, me and my cousin Junior were the youngest ones for years, years and years. Me and him were the youngest ones. And I felt like that's what helped me stay in touch. Even though I would go tear it for the rest of the year, I would at least straighten up for that week. Yeah, for that week. And I would go out to the grounds and I would help out as much as I could. I would try to be of service, to whoever's going through. And um, it just became a staple in my life as something that, you know, even though I wasn't living right the rest of the year, I at least had enough respect to straighten up for that week and, be present and take part. And, just being able to have that little bit of who I felt like I really was, and having that struggle of trying to live in today's world, and understand that there's something greater out there for me. You know, like it was like this battle going on spiritually, you know, this battle going on mentally, you know, and of course, you know, I have the allergy, you know, of the body, which didn't help me physically, but then also emotionally, I was struggling, you know, in all phases of my life. So whenever it came time for me to finally put those things to the side, look for a solution, we can't preach this enough around here that the culture is the solution. You know, that's definitely what got my feet back on the ground. Once I came back home and I got a little bit of time under my belt, and I let recovery just take over my life. Um, it hits different now whenever I go to sweat and I ask for a prayer request, or I'm not afraid to speak at these, during these ceremonies, whereas before I didn't think I was important enough. I didn't think that because of my lifestyle that nobody would really think I was sincere about the things that I wanted, not for me but for other people.
It's kind of like the imposter syndrome thing. Like,
Yes,
I don't
yes.
feel like that I'm good enough to
Yeah.
do this thing, nor do I feel like I'm good enough to teach someone else
Yeah.
to come along the way, because I've already told myself that I'm not good enough. And
Yeah.
we're really good at doing that to
Definitely.
ourselves. We are quick to discredit who we are and what we've accomplished because we still hold ourselves accountable for the bad stuff that we've done. So yeah, I get that. I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
And then
Yeah,
yeah.
you know, I talk a lot. I do speak a lot to various communities and everything, and in a lot of the discussions that I've had about this particular thing, being Indian as being spiritual, and what it says to me, one is not born a Tiwa, but rather one is made a Tiwa. You don't just automatically, just because you're born brown or born, into a tribe or born that way, it doesn't automatically give you that that title, that entitlement, right? A lot of times entitlement lives here. It came here. Nobody a lot. I mean, back in the hierarchical societies and things like that, you were born into that, but you also had to be taught and I almost had teached. You almost had to be taught or trained to follow in those footsteps of the people that came before you, and we still have to do that. And so that imposter syndrome kicks in a lot with a lot of people because we feel like that our level of spirituality has to be the same as someone else's. There's a standard, right? Well, we
Yeah.
talked about creating that mental picture of what it's supposed to look like. We've standardized a way of life that we're not supposed to do that. That's not for us to do. Hijagadamuji, Ibufanga, Halwi Legitska. They say that belongs to whatever your higher power is of choosing, whether it be your creator, whether it be your God, whether however you choose to refer to that person, that is our higher power, right? And that's for them to help teach you and mold you. And a lot of times we do that. I run into people because nowadays it's hard to find a full blood. I mean, I am full blood native. I am full blood Creek and Seminole, which essentially is the same tribe, just a different part of the timeline. But I am full blood proven on paper, that standardized practice, because the only people that have to prove who they are natives, dogs, and horses. So, and here I am. So I got a pedigree. So that being stated, is we have people who are now not full bloods anymore. They are, they're whatever race that they're mixed with, whatever. We're still full human being, right? We're all part of the human race. We're still part of that culture. That being stated, is a lot of times the color of our skin gets us judged. And I say that on this side of the bracket because when I was growing up, I was dark. I mean, I still am dark, but I got judged for being dark growing up because that was negative, and our own people can be just as racist as anybody else. Reverse racism and everything happens all the time too. But if you, the darker your skin was, my grandma was the best at making me feel better because she would say things like, don't let them hurt your feelings. It's not your fault. The sun loves you more than it loves them. Like she would say things like that and would be like empowering, right? Like I would be empowered by my grandma's words and I would stand a little bit straighter and a little bit prouder and I wouldn't cover up in the sun because I used to go to the lake and swim and then I would cover up because I didn't want to get dark. And but that being said is on the other side of the spectrum, I know people right now that are as white as this sheet of paper, like but have more heart than some of those people who carry around that full blood card, right? And they think that that grants them entitlement because they're more Indian than you. No, it doesn't. It doesn't. And that's just a concept and a mindset and a standardization, all of the things. And that tells me that that colonized mindset, those people that came in and took over and sent us to boarding schools and all of those things, that the battle that they chose to wage on our people, that they won in that person's mind. They feel like they are better based on the standard that they were taught generations ago. Let me back up a little bit. Anyway, we need to learn our culture, our language, our dances, our traditions, and customs. It's one thing to know these things, but another to live them. I don't know how many school book people who have told me how I should be. Like, and they just learned it, in college, and it's one thing to go back. Absolutely. I always advocate for you to go back, find who you are, find your people. That's not just native culture. Everybody has a culture. Culture is culture is culture. So whether you're from Ireland or Iowa, regardless of where you're from, you have a culture, you have a tradition, you have ceremony. And you can create that ceremony and you can continue to have that ceremony and don't and you stand on that ceremony. And if you stand on business in that ceremony and you don't let anybody back you down from it, then they can't take it from you ever because it lives here. You don't have to put on airs for other people because this is what you're supposed to look like. Um, because that's not genuine. There is a quote by Philip Deere, which is my children's grandfather, who was a Creek orator for the American Indian movement way back when. Very simple quote: be who you are, and you'll know what to do. And if you're not living your authentic self, then you're not going to know what to do. You're going to wander. My grandma used to say, you wander too far from the fire, you're going to get cold. You're going to get lost. You'll get lost in this world. And so it's very spiritual because we have to believe in that. We have to believe that that fire is keeping us warm, meaning it's not just physically keeping us warm, but mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and physically. It is enveloping us. It's wrapping us in the warmth of its spirit, of its prayer, of everything that comes along with it. And so, and if we don't worry about, like in Wellbriety, we learn to heal the whole person. It's whole person healing. So mentally, spiritually, emotionally, physically, daily check-ins are absolutely key. It was key to me for my in my Wellbriety in my recovery every day. And it's fine if you're not good one day emotionally, and that validates your feelings that day instead of saying, oh, I got to be tough guy, and because for so long I was a tough guy. For so long I had to be that way. But anyway, we'll go farther into it. We need to spend time with the elders and get their guidance. Here's another thing that I had to offer to the community very recently is what constitutes an elder in your community. Because to me, elder doesn't just mean old, right? It's knowledge, it's wisdom, it's that lived experience, so to speak. Um, we if you've seen Reservation Dogs, it's one of those, where I'm a young elder, kind of thing, and we tease about it, but there literally are people that I go to, my children, for example. You have to be teachable every day, especially in our recovery journey, right? You have to know you don't know everything because that's accountability. You don't know everything. Hey. But it's one of those experiences and journeys you have to be teachable. I learned from my daughter, my youngest daughter, every day. Um, every day. I learn from my kids. And it's usually because it's a spirit of reciprocity. It's something that I have taught them along my way, along my journey, that I have maybe forgotten. Like, I forget a lot of those lessons and they remind me of them. And I am so appreciative of it, especially now because my kids got four different versions of a mother. They got, the crazy, well, they all got the crazy rugged one, but no, I'm just saying, but I mean, yeah, they did, but they all have the crazy rugged one, that hangs out and big kicks it. But they also all got a various level of mentally, spiritually, and emotionally and physically well mother as well. And so those constant reminders, constant of everything, it really, it really, really resonates with me because um, I feel like elder is subjective, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because in council, when I was on council, I had to battle a lot of times, and I mean, and I'm not speaking for anybody else's council but mine, but our tribal council, we have people that tend to get complacent because they've been there for years and years and years. It's never changed. It's not ever going to change. Why are you changing it now? We're comfortable in where we're at. And then I come in and rock the boat, and they don't like it because then all of a sudden I'm just a young, no good, I know how you used to be and blah, 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 blah. And, and I did used to fight a lot, but I mean, now I choose to fight professionally. Right. So very professionally, and it rocks the boat for a lot of people. But I also have become like what my kids are to me. I'm a reminder that this way of life used to be important, and we've lost it, and we've gone so far away from it that we, other than the fact that our skin is brown, or that we have tribal cards, sometimes we've gone so far away from it that we've strayed too far from that fire. And if we have to continue to think right. We have to understand the road. The red road is wide. We talk about this, at the Wellbriety conference, but I listen to Don Coyes quite a bit. But one of the teachings that we have is that we make the red road narrow. In my head, I have to walk this tight rope, and if I stumble and fall, then I've failed. But we have not. Once we made the decision to move forward, the whole orange frog theory, right? We have to remember that we created that. That's my accountability. I created that. Who told me that I was going to fall and fail? Me, most of the time. But we have to understand that that road is not a tight line. It is wide. It's wide enough for all of us to walk together and go forward and move forward. And you have to believe that spiritually, because if not, then it just sounds like some hooky crap, that somebody's like, you know what I mean? Like that's what a lot of people think, that it's just cultish mindset. But if not, you'll get lost in it, right? We have to find our own balance. We have to meet our creator halfway, and walking the red road and thinking right is the greatest gift we can give to our children. We have to model for our children. We have to model this road for our children, and not just do it because we're on screen or do it because it makes us look good. Sometimes the road to recovery it's not sexy. I have to be accountable for a lot of stuff that I did in my life, and a lot of things that I did bad to people in this world. And my accountability is the only way that I can model those actions for my children and the people that come under me that look up to me. I'm going to shut up now. Okay. Marigos and market. Mado.
What did they say?
Where? Okay, I am full-blood Arapaho, 5 generations on my mother's side. On my father's side, I just know to my father's mother and father, my grandmother was named Traveler, and my grandfather was Cleaver Warden, youngest of his brothers and sisters. Janet says hearts floating out of your eyes. Darian said he's about to propose again. And it. Uh-oh.
Well, thank you,
Dang,
Grandma Jerry.
I'm just mesmerized. Hey,
Grandma Jerry. Everybody called her dad Grandpa Jim. He used to sit on his porch right there at 81 and Foreman. And I remember as a kid, he would get his chair, him and Dustin, his grandson would go and stand by the road with their chair and drumsticks, and people would pull up and take him out to the dance at our concho so he could go sing. So, that's I don't know why that memory just came across my mind.
You know, when you were talking about being like you couldn't imagine being anything but Cheyenne, I remember thinking that the pride that was behind that when I was growing up, it was hidden. We had to hide. Um, even our ceremony now, it was hidden a lot of times under the guise of a religion. The way that our churches, our Indian churches, Indian Baptist churches is what I'm Baptist, Indian Baptist, but um so Indian Baptist churches were set up in the same format as a ceremonial ground. There was a central church. There were camps all around. They had two deacons, that carried sticks, just like they do the Dakbalas at in Bohatas at the ceremonial ground. They had women's leaders. They had a pastor and an associate pastor, which is like our Miko and our, Hiniha. And so under the guise of that, really, I remember even taking medicine during funerals in Ilowetska. Hang on, what's the English word for that? Ilowet fasting, like for communion. So we refer to that as Ilowetska because we fast for those particular ceremonies. But, and the women would go into the woods and pray, and the men would go into the woods and pray. And all of these different things were what we did already. But we had to hide it under the guise of a religion so we wouldn't get persecuted. And so the fact that I can come up here now and say Istijadi Does, like I am Istijadi Mahidon Does, like I will say I am the real deal. Hey, no, I'm just playing, but I am I am native, and I can proudly say that, and nobody's gonna come charging out the door. Nowadays it's a trend. Now it's a good thing. Now and I'm glad it's trending in the up for pride to be something that is embraced now, that stigmatization behind it. I know a lot of people in our own family, like distant relatives that we always knew that they were our relatives, but they didn't want to claim it because they didn't want that stereotype. They didn't want to be known as the drunk Indians or related to those crazy hard Joes. Hey, listen, it took me a long time just to be a hard Joe is a stigma in my
There's a lot of y'all.
area.
There's a lot of y'all.
It is like Smith in the white world, right? So it was just one of those during whenever the Dawes Rolls came in and they were signing everybody up. A lot of us just had one name, and that didn't look like the standard American dream, right? So they threw a name on the end of your name. So that's why you have a lot of Harjos who aren't really Harjos. They're like, well, our family was this, but they gave this to us during the Dawes Rolls because my grandma just had one name, or my grandpa just had one name, so they just threw it on there. But anyway, the hidden part of it, in the reality of it, the pride's always been there. We just weren't able to shine as high as we are now. So, well, are we done talking about this? Did we beat the dead horse?
Yeah.
All right.
Well, thank you. I appreciate all of that. Yeah, that was amazing. I need to come back more often.
I wore my shirt today. I'm glad. I like to show these off because we just did the end overdose, the hashtag end overdose. We do these every year, so hopefully we got another one coming up pretty soon. But okay, here we go.
And this is who made my medallion.
I'm not taking orders. That was 2 days.
Well, we appreciate that.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, you had a lot of good words. Yeah, you had a lot of good words.
See you, Kimberly Sexton. See you.
See you.
See you, God.
Well, should we go ahead and jump off into all of these announcements? Go ahead, hit it. Boo bags. We found out recently that we are able to ship Narcan out of state, which we were kind of confused because you could go to any Walgreens and buy, Narcan. So we are able to ship Narcan out of state today. So still a hold up on some of the harm reduction supplies. But, if you need fentanyl test kits, HIV test kits, condoms, emergency contraceptives, or toothbrush, toothpaste, some educational pamphlets, or information cards. If you just scan the QR code right here, it takes you to a job form. Send us your address, send us your name, or it can remain anonymous. So that was, that's always,
It's always a plus
it's
because,
always a
like we always
plus.
talk about the stigmatization and everything. And a lot of times, a lot of times
Somebody's calling my
when we're yeah,
phone.
somebody's calling it, so it's blocking it. But we're always talking about the stigmatization of anytime we're handing out these, I know when we're doing harm reduction, kits and everything, we always hear an explanation of,
Yeah,
oh, well, it's for my son or it's for my friend, or and I
yeah,
don't
yeah,
need
yeah,
that
yeah.
explanation. You don't have to justify.
Just go save a life.
Just go save a life and be proud of that.
Yeah,
So, like, yeah.
Mr. Jake Chappell. Good morning. Good morning. Okay. Shout out to Brand Logics. Text TOR, TOR, to 888-580-4867. That's 888-580-4TOR. It just gives you all our updates with the All Nations Res Recovery Gourd Clan, and with TOR as a program, gives you our meeting times, our meeting locations. So if it's free. So go ahead and text TOR to 888-580-4TOR, and shout out to Brand Logics. And then this Saturday, the culture is the solution. The All Nations Res Recovery Gourd Clan will be having our benefit dance in Clinton Saturday. I know we've been planning on, having a good meal, making sure there's enough food. And we got like 4 or 5 briskets that, yeah, we're gonna be rolling in some beef. But what we used to say around El Reno is it's El Reno, where's the beef?
Oh,
Nah. But November 2nd in Clinton at the ERC. Come out and shake some gourds with us and pop some fringes. The culture is the solution.
and I
So
think Leanna is practicing on the
yeah,
brisket. So
Leanna.
she's perfecting her technique as we
All right. I'll be
ready to test.
Yeah, I'll be ready to test. Then November 9th, they're having a memorial dance for Tony Pawnee at the Clinton ERC. Isaac Rhodes, that's his mother-in-law. He's been a big supporter of us. So I think it's real important that, we show the same support back. So, November 9th at the Clinton ERC, go check them out. Show some support for the family coming back into the circle. And then November 13th from 6 to 8:30, my rugged auntie Corinne Morton and her bunch, they're having a powwow dance class. If you're interested, they had a lot of people taking part at the last one. I mean, they had a real good turnout. We can't say it enough that the culture is the solution. You know, Prevention is doing food. Okay. That's great. I love the fact that this community is ready to support, somebody getting out there, trying to show our people a better way, like going along with today's reading,
Food is
uh,
definitely part of a community too, right? I
definitely.
mean, it's definitely part of the healing of a community. It's part of community, and I mean, it's
Hell,
so important. I don't know. There's just something about that. Even they always tell, whenever we go to ceremony, they would always say, "Bring your best."
yeah,
And if that best is beans and rice, then
I'm
by
good with
God, bring
bologna.
beans and rice.
I'm good with bologna.
But it's always nice to have that
Yeah,
sense of
for
community
sure.
because food is definitely healing for a
Well,
lot of our people.
shout out to my Aunt Corinne, and everybody else that's having a hand in making that happen. I think it's a great ideal, great for our community. So, once again, thank you, Rugged Auntie. And then November 23rd at the Weatherford Middle School in Weatherford, Oklahoma. The JOM program is having a youth powwow, and our very own Terry Lindsay is the honored educator. Terry does a lot of great work with Tradition Not Addiction. He goes into our schools as well as all of the prevention. All our very own Christine Sharp. They do a lot of great things with our kids. But for him to be honored, I think that's awesome. We're definitely going to be there at that powwow, November 23rd at the Weatherford Middle School in Weatherford, Oklahoma.
Terry. He's also
Yeah, he's Creek. And then December 7th, the Shine Arapaho tribes are having a circle of giving. Not your traditional benefit dance where it's special after special. We ask that this be more like a tour drive where we're going to be gore dancing at. We're going to have some pretty awesome raffles. You bring a $10 toy, we will enter you into a raffle for a 58-inch TV and some cedar boxes. And we'll have some other, raffles going on. But that's what we're asking these head staff is to bring toys. At that time of year, we're getting together with, I think maybe ICW or, one of those programs, other departments where we can help out the kids that have been affected by addiction. Me being one of those kids, I remember, that time of year it kind of gets tough, not only for the parents, but also for the kid, for the kids, for the children.
There's so many of us that were those
There's
kids.
so many of us. So, I love the idea that, we're trying to reach our youth, and let them know that, they're on our minds, they're just a part of this community as we are. So, there we go, produce.
Production.
And this is, the Circle of Giving nomination form. It's different not to say that we're just not sure about how big this tour drive is going to be, but this is a nomination form. If you know any kids that have been directly affected by addiction, nominate them, and don't just do it because you want a kid to have a present. You know, uh, you know, apparently something's going on with parents, and we don't want to single them out. We don't want anybody to feel like they're being left out, but I think it's a great idea that we take into consideration the kids that are probably going through a lot with their parents. And then Mending Mondays, Mending Broken Hearts is I get the most out of that meeting. I really enjoy the Mending Broken Hearts training, uh, talking circle with Mr. Levi. He does, he's doing great work in our community.
Amazing work. Amazing work.
That's 7 o'clock on Monday here at 1950 South Shepherd downstairs, actually. And then on Tuesday nights in Clinton, they have a talking circle at the public library at 721 Frisco Avenue at the public library at 7. So go and check them out if you're in the area. And then Thursday nights, tonight, we're having a talking circle here at 1950 South Shepherd at El Reno. It begins at 7 o'clock. We start smudging about 6:30, so people will be showing up, but the meeting's from 7 to 8. And then Friday nights is a 12-step meeting here at the same location, 1950 South Shepherd. That begins at 7 o'clock, and it goes a little bit more in depth into the Wellbriety book, a little bit more action where you put pen to paper.
I think that's a really important meeting too, especially if you're really, really trying to get sober.
Find
and
a solution.
Stay sober.
Yes, it's a solution.
It's one thing to go to a talking circle and be able to talk about your feelings, but to be able to actually work those steps,
Very important.
it's so important in your road to recovery to just continue. It's a daily thing. And if you don't have a sense of community that is also going through the same thing, the same struggle, then you don't feel seen. And those 12-step meetings are definitely, they're really heart-wrenching sometimes because you have to do work that you don't want to do. It's uncomfortable, but
Yeah.
it's
It's
necessary.
worth it.
It's so worth it. Your sobriety is always worth it.
Definitely.
But yeah, I think that that's good that y'all go through that. I said y'all. That you
Y'all.
all
Y'all.
from Seminole County, y'all.
And we would like to also, go check out ZacharyBlackout.com. He does a lot of great work on the mental health side of, of our prevention programs. He has speaking engagements November 6th, November 20th, December 2nd. And, once he starts rolling in the money, he said he's going to give us a little kickback. So, we like to feature our very own Mr. Blackout. So, if you have anything that you feel like he could help you out with, just reach out because I promise he has a great story and he's not afraid to share it. And I believe that is it. Is there anything else you would like to?
No, because we'll be here another 30 minutes.
Yeah, that's right. I know that's right. Would you like to shout anybody out?
Shout out to Ahology and Mahinwa because I know that they're sitting here listening. They listened to the live already, and yeah, and then shout out to Mingo.
Yeah, Mingo just now walked in.
What?
Yo, that's not the flavor I wanted, bro. That's a scary costume too. Yeah.
Let me see. It's a mask. It's a big old mask. Big old honka mask.
Well,
no, that's all
honka,
I have. Madigos and mucket. Yeah, honka. That's our word for monster. Do y'all have a word for monster?
Mingo.
Dang it.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's our word for monster. Honka. Honka. Any just general monster, whether it be, I don't know. Anyway, but I don't know if y'all had it or not.
Yeah, we do. We'll talk about that when we get.
We'll talk about it later. We'll be here another 30 minutes. Okay?
Well, we appreciate everybody that's able to tune in.
Having me.
I would love to have you back. You did great. Yeah, you did great. You did great.
Come back.
Yeah, we appreciate everybody that tuned in. We will see you tomorrow. We're gonna do a live podcast from the elders conference. So that I'm excited about that. Get some elders on and let them get to rapping and make it happen. Yep.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead and we will see you tomorrow. Yeah.